Let's learn one of the important concepts in Excel, which is the different types of cell references. So let me delete these cells first because we don't need them anymore. And let's go back to the products worksheet. And here we actually have already calculated the selling price using this formula in one of the previous videos. And in here, when we copied the cells, when we copied the formulas, what happened was Excel was changing the cell references and it was increasing the row numbers by 1 when we copied over down this column. And this type of cell reference is called relative cell reference, meaning when you copy over, the cell references would change. There are two other types of cell references in addition to the relative cell references. The next type is called absolute cell reference. Let's say our profit margin is not different for each book like we have written here. Every book, let's say, has a 30% margin and will always be the same for all the books. So in this case, we don't have to type 30% in all the cells here. We can just type 30%, let's say here in one cell, and then we can write a formula here which will take the purchase price plus purchase price times the margin percentage, which is 30%, and hit enter. So we got the same number as we got here. That's not surprising. And what we would like to do is to copy it over. And when we copy it over, obviously you see that the cell references are increasing, and now it is F3 times I2, which is not what we want. So we want I1 to remain the same for all the cells when we copy it over. So we have to lock I1 to be in the same cell. So we can actually do that by typing in a dollar symbol before I and then another dollar symbol before 1. So what we are telling Excel is that this is locked as I1, and when we copy over, don't change that reference. So let me try it now, and when I drag it now, you can see here this cell I3, it is taking in the purchase price of the second book and then taking the purchase price and multiplying it by again 30%. So as we scroll down, we are still only multiplying with 30% as a margin percentage, which is what we want. So we were able to do this because we locked this reference. And this reference is now called absolute reference because it doesn't change when I scroll or when I copy further. And please note that this locking or this absolute cell reference is also applicable when we copy cells across the columns to the right or the left as well. Now, the last type of cell reference is called mixed cell reference. Mixed meaning in this case, we actually had both the column and the row number locked. So I1 was the only cell that was referred to in this formula here. But if we want only the row or the column to be locked, but not both, then that's what mixed cell reference means. So let's take an example here, and we want to calculate the margin or the selling price when the margin percentage is 30, 50, 70%. So let's say 30%, 50%, 70%. When we have these different margin percentage, how does the selling price change? Let's say we want to calculate that. So let me delete this, and let's say we want to enter a formula here. So basically the default formula would look something like this, but what we want to establish or achieve here is when we copy the formula this way, meaning in the same column, we want the formula to only use this 30%, and all the cells here should use 30%. So in order to achieve that, what I need to tell Excel is that when I'm copying cells over here, we have to lock the first row in I1. So if I'm going to type dollar in front of 1 and I'm hitting enter, and now you can see that it is the purchase price, which is a relative reference, which means when I scroll down, when I copy down, Excel will increase the cell reference here in the row, which means F2 becomes F3 and then F3 again here, which is good, but it still is referring to I1 because the row number has been locked with the dollar symbol. So we can do it further, and you can see here, even in the last cell here, we are still referring to I1 30%, which is what we wanted to do. All the cells here should use 30% as a margin percentage. But if I'm copying these over to the next column here, and you can see here that this is wrong because in calculating the selling price, I'm actually not using the purchase price in my formula, and that is because I did not lock my purchase price here correctly. So let me delete that first and go back to the cell here, and what we need to tell is for the purchase price here, the column F should not change. So let me put a dollar symbol in front of the purchase price F2, and again also here. So what I have done here is that when I am scrolling to the right and I am copying to the right, the column reference typically increases by one column at a time, but I don't want Excel to do it. I want Excel to lock the column F. This is where my purchase price is located. So I have locked them. I have locked the row number for the margin percentage, and I'm now going to hit enter, and now I'm going to copy all the way here and also copy all of them here. So let's auto fit so we can see everything, and we can check whether this is correct or not. Let's go to the cell J2, and what it's doing is taking the purchase price plus purchase price times 50%, and that is great. And you can check another cell here, and it is calculating purchase price correctly plus purchase price times J1, it's 50%. And you can check one more here, and it is purchase price of this book, which is F16 plus F16 times K1, which is 70%. So we have been able to calculate so many cells correctly by just employing the right references in the cell references, right type of cell references. So here we have locked column, we have also locked the row for the margin percentage. So this type of formula can be written, which can save you a lot of time to calculate lots of cells. And this is a mixed type of cell reference where you're locking either the row or the column, but you're not locking both. If you're locking both, then it's called the absolute cell reference, which we can do as well. Initially, the cell references concept can be a little bit harder to understand and implement, but once you use data more often and practice, this will become easier. This is going to be very, very powerful, and this is a great thing for you to learn and use. And just take some dummy data or take this sample file and then practice and see how Excel is handling the cell references, and how when you copy cells over, how Excel is reacting to it. And once you practice, you will understand the power, and also you'll be able to implement this in a variety of situations.